Grizzly. At Grizzly, we believe charging your electric vehicle should be simple, reliable, and affordable. That's why we design, engineer, and build our chargers in Canada, ensuring top-tier quality and performance. Powered by United Chargers, every Grizzly model is crafted in-house, built to withstand extreme conditions, and tested for reliability. Recognized by leading publications for its performance and value, Grizzly delivers both durability and intelligence with heavy-duty aluminum enclosures, premium output cables, and smart charging features like scheduling, usage tracking, and OCPP compatibility with multiple charging apps. Grizzly. Simple, reliable, affordable, built for every climate, every EV, everywhere you go. Visit grizzly.com to learn more.
Hello and welcome to the Batteries Included podcast. It's good to see you. It's Friday, June 6th, episode 91. Today, the Trump-Musk feud. How will it impact Tesla? The Polestar 4 now on sale in the US, and Superchargers are being ripped out of the ground when contracts expire. And of course, much, much more. I'm your host, Martin Lee from the EV News Daily podcast. Joining us today is the ebullient Mr. Tom Malogany, senior editor at Inside EVs and host of the YouTube channel State of Charge, and Dominic Yoni, longtime EV journalist, host of the YouTube channel Drive Electric with Dominic, and official pusher of the buttons on this podcast. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining me. And thank you for you for joining us. If you're joining us live on Friday in the comments in the live chat, we couldn't do this without you. It's my personal highlight is to see what's on your mind each week as we enter the world of electric vehicles, green energy, how we do this e-mobility transition once again. Here we go. Tesla stock took a big one-day hit yesterday. We're not a financial podcast, but a couple of $100 billion is pretty much more than most companies in the world are worth, and that was what was wiped off of the value of Tesla alone yesterday. Why? Well, a feud between the president and the CEO. It's done a bit of a 180, and the company lost 15% market value. I think 200 billion since the beginning of the week is what I'm referring to, is 150 billion in a day. It's unclear if there's going to be more damage to Tesla. It's unclear what this means for the move to electric vehicles. And I say that not because we're a Tesla podcast, but because in the president's mind, the CEO of Tesla, I think, is an embodiment of all things electric vehicle. And so what could it mean for the things that you and I love, which is EVs? Well, let me give you some background, and we'll bring in our contributors today, our co-hosts, I should say. Elon Musk finished off his stint at Doge, or the Government Efficiency Office, on Friday, and at 1:31 on Monday started tweeting criticism of a signature piece of legislation, this big, beautiful bill. He said you can have one or the other, but you can't have big and beautiful bills. It should be small and beautiful. It's going to add to the deficit. And that's exactly what he spent the beginning of the year trying to work on reducing it. And this is going to add trillions to it. He said, I can't stand it anymore. It's a massive, outrageous, pork-filled spending bill. It's a disgusting abomination. You voted for it. You did wrong, and you know it. Minutes later, he started talking about a gigantic budget deficit. Over the next few days, he continued his online attacks. People are urged to call their senators and Congress people, asking them to kill the bill. Musk has gone full-on aggressive against the president. Now the president's firing back, saying that Elon's wearing thin, that he asked him to leave there being any involvement in the government, and that actually he is minded to cancel all of the what he called governmental subsidies and contracts. His words, not mine, it's the president's, saying that he's the easiest way to save money in our government is to stop giving free money to Elon Musk. And as like I say, this isn't a Musk. This is, I think, an embodiment of what electric vehicles are all about. It's quite astonishing to watch, really. I know that, Tom, you've been watching it this week. I'm really curious to see what you think about it all.
Yeah, the funny thing is, and I've talked about this with a bunch of my buddies, Pete Remy, who's in the comment stream here today. We've all said this is going to blow up. We don't know when, how long will this last? But these two personalities, at some point, it's going to blow up. And Trump demands, unwavering loyalty, but gives none. That's and you understand that going into the relationship with him, like and this was long before he became president. This is who Donald Trump is. You guys know I've had a restaurant in Montclair, New Jersey. Trump had business dealings all around the area that I was in. I was 12 miles from New York City. A lot of my customers knew Trump and Trump's family personally. And that this was the MO of him, going back then. And you take a person like Elon, the richest person in the world with a huge ego, at some point that was going to combust. And, is it now? Are they going to patch things up? It seems like it blew up. It escalated pretty quickly. It went from a tweet of like this. I'm sorry. I have to say something. This is pork filled. It's going to add 2 or 3 to 4 trillion, I think, to our debt. But then, like 10 hours later, it was a full on war. So sometimes when things escalate that quickly, they can go back. You can. So supposedly there's a meeting going on today or some point soon, and they're going to discuss things. It doesn't serve either person or either person's agendas, let's say, for the two of them to be at war like this. So, we'll see. But at some point, I knew Elon was going to get kicked out of the White House. I think Trump was happy to give him all the access and everything he had in the beginning because he poured tons of money and political influence into the Trump campaign. Elon himself may have been the reason that why Trump got pushed over the line and won the election. So to thank him for that, he had unfettered access to the White House. He brought his son in, for all those photo ops and everything. But, we're a couple months down the road now. And what have you done for me lately, Elon? Nothing. You tweeted and you criticized me. Well, then Trump will bring the napalm out. And I think in this position, Trump holds most of the cards as far as this relationship goes. Yes, Elon could go wild and pour money into the midterms with, the people running against Trump's people and everything. But that, Trump being the president of the U.S. has tremendous influence over most of Elon's businesses, and there's tons of billions in contracts he has. We know how Donald Trump operates. Whether it's legal or not, he could cancel contracts and, just kick Elon to the wayside. And if this goes full nuclear, so it's going to be interesting to watch. But then again, the cynical side of me says, watching what's happened with the tariffs going on and off and on and off, whenever stock market goes down, whenever there's bad news, whenever there's good news, there are people that profit from that. People play the market when they know that there's going to be bad news. They dump stock, they sell short, they do all kind of things. A lot of people made a lot of money from Trump's announcements with 100% tariffs, maybe 20%. No, we're gonna 50%. All these, every time something changes with an announcement, you notice the stock market reacts, and people make a lot of money from that. I know it's terrible, but like the cynical side of me says this feud. I know people made money with this and will make money with Tesla's enormous dip, and then let's say they patch things up now. Tesla will go back up in a week or two. So, like the cynical side of me says, this could all be a plot for the billionaires to continue to make more money while the suckers like us just keep losing. So anyway, I know that's pretty negative, but
no,
that's how I feel about what's going on right now in the country.
It was my first thought, to be honest, when I saw this feud. We live in an era of reality TV. Your president is a reality TV star who, whether you like him or not, understands how to entertain people and cut through, talk to the everyman, the everywoman of America. And my first thought And then I thought, I'm being ridiculous. My first thought was, is this real? Like,
Really?
is somebody trying, does Musk need to try and get back on side with the typical EV buyer who, I'll paint in broad brushstrokes if you like. The typical Tesla fan, I think, was endeared to the company because they were a mission-led company, the mission to accelerate the world to zero-emission transport. And clearly getting in bed with someone who doesn't believe that it has harmed Tesla. Hasn't harmed the products. The products are still fantastic. I don't think you can paint it as being like, Democrats used to buy Teslas and Republicans don't. But I think you can be broad and say that people like the mission of the company. And these days, I think people went very anti-Elon, and he embodies the company, of course, because he was in bed with somebody who's kind of the opposite of those Tesla buyers' values. Again, it's not everybody. Of course, I know it's not everybody. So when I saw this, Tom, I thought, well, is this just trying to repair some of the damage? Are they texting each other being, hey, like, no hard feelings? And, as you say, a kind of a make-up in 3 months' time when Elon's, I don't know, gone full circle or something. And I don't know. Like, Dom, I know you've got some thoughts on this. If it were real, how spiteful politicians can be. They can do things like look into the citizenship of a South African owning businesses in America and things like that. Like, Dom, what's your, and SpaceX? I guess we haven't even talked about that. Dom, what are your thoughts?
Right. I mean, well, speaking of SpaceX, he at one point Musk had threatened to pull the decommissioned Dragon, which is the rocket that the U.S. is depending on to get astronauts back and forth to the space station. And then someone with a couple hundred followers suggested maybe that's not maybe they should just like calm down for a sec. And then Musk used that to as a way out to de-escalate that. So yeah, so it's like you said, it escalated quickly. It burned red hot there for a while. Like Musk went pretty nuclear, I think, with some of the things he was saying about Trump. So it's really hard to see Trump letting go of that stuff, I mean, he said some pretty hard things to swallow, I think, for anyone really, not just Trump. So I have a hard time seeing a path to making up, but it's possible, it's like, but that's really the question: more war or taco, basically. Which is people know what tacos Trump always chickens out. Is someone had. In reference to tariffs, someone had they give him that little I don't know what you call it anyway.
Yeah.
So, but this could be really bad for Tesla, basically, because we really want to look at how this could possibly affect the EVs in America. Really, we don't need to talk about like the politics of this too much. There's a lot, and people can read about that online. But this could.
It's so hard. I'd rather us not, like, I know I say this a lot. We have to talk about this, but like at some point, let's move on because it's just it's crazy. But the last thing that a point that I wanted to make was it's just hard for me. I know we all know Elon's a very smart person. Okay. Like him or don't like him, he's a smart guy. And it's very hard for me to understand that he didn't foresee like Trump turning on him, or that he could control Trump with his money and influence or whatever. Like that's one of the things that surprises me, that this Elon went into this partnership, this relationship, somehow thinking that Trump wouldn't, there wouldn't be that et tu brute moment where, he gets his knife in the back. So then I start thinking, well, maybe this is coordinated and orchestrated, because Elon's he's smarter than that. Like, he wouldn't, anybody from the outside could look in it and say, oh, wow, this is going to end really badly. But will it, is there something greater going on that we don't know about? That's because Elon's too smart to have played into this like this and just get kicked by the wayside now that Trump doesn't need him anymore. But we'll see.
Right.
Maybe I'm wrong.
The thing I'm worried about is that like Trump will look at this, and for him, maybe Tesla embodies the whole electric vehicle world.
Yeah.
So maybe
I think it does. I think
to
it
hurt
does. It's got to.
So to hurt Elon, he could do any number of things like restrict critical materials in the supply chain for electric vehicles for
Sure.
Tesla specifically. Like China has, China's, I could say China has a hold on the rare earths, but they're not even exporting that now. And actually, factories in Europe have been shut down because of that. But there's other things that Trump could do to really hurt Tesla and just the broader EV situation. Just that the whole sector more broadly, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, man, so I'm kind of hoping they make up a little bit, at least. Like whatever. That's all the stuff they do is like outside of my control, and I really want to stay focused on EVs, really, because that's a lot of noise.
Listen, guys, this shit is crazier than daytime soap operas. It really is.
Look at this.
Like there's more drama and crazy things going on here than what we used to be able to watch on TV. Except
we've got on screen
everyone's lives are at stake.
For our audio listeners, we've got something on screen. We do this online on YouTube as well, if you want to join us visually. But for our audio listeners, I'm showing a screen from BBC News right now. They're doing a live blog on the fallout, which in itself blows my mind because who cares? But still, 44,000 people are watching the BBC live text blog. It's on screen now. 44,000 live viewers of the live blog just to see what's happened in the last 30 seconds. What a crazy world we live in. Like, just put your phone down and come back in 24 hours if you're interested and see what happened. And, maybe see what... So I was talking to my podcast listeners about this on EV News Daily. Because someone was asking, how do you put together a daily podcast that's half hour long that doesn't miss a thing in the EV world? So I said I use RSS feeds. So you can use things like Google Alerts, Google News. So anytime an article is published online, you can have Google ping you. And I've just got hundreds of keywords, as Dom knows very well. And so, the keywords like e-tron, EQS, Model Y, covering the industry. But what InnoReader allows you to do is to also have block words. And so some months ago, I blocked the words Musk and Trump from the headline of a story because there were so many stories coming into my feed that I just didn't need to know. Now, of course, if it involved Tesla, I would see it. But actually, in the headline of the article, if it matched a keyword, Musk or Trump, I just never saw it because it got too much for me because I was just living in this crazy world. It's like an emotional roller coaster. So I didn't actually see the news until a couple of days ago, and I came to it late. And it's amazing. And so maybe 44,000 people should go outdoors and look at the trees, go have a real life, and we can talk about electric vehicles. It is interesting though, like you say, Dom, how this affects EVs. I don't know about anyone watching and listening today. I'm under no doubt that we are moving towards a society that will move itself around in the future with electric power, whether that's scooters, e-bikes, cars. There's no alternative. Oil will run out. Whether it's 10 years or 30 years, I don't know. No one knows. But we'll all be driving EVs. And so people saying, does this stop the US's move to electric vehicles? Politicians come and go, guys. 4-year terms come, 4-year term, and there can be directions of travel, I know, with parties, but it might slow things down. Maybe. I don't know. But we're going EV, aren't we? So, of course we are. I'm convinced of it.
Yeah, as long as they don't take all our superchargers out of the ground.
Because that's what happened. I love that segue. Dom, you set them up, I'll knock them down. Tesla's supercharging infrastructure along the New Jersey Turnpike has to be shut down and decommissioned. 64 supercharger stalls along one of the busiest highway corridors in the Northeast. What is going on? Well, the stalls will be replaced by chargers made by Apple Green. Tesla are going to have to rip out their superchargers. I think they're being invited by the Turnpike to come and take them out. Tesla said they tried to agree better than market terms, offering to put them into every stop and try and do everything they could. But this seems to be a foregone conclusion. Tom, you are our our charging expert. What's happened here?
So on the surface, it seems like, Tesla is being wronged and being singled out. And, with the political climate that we just discussed, it wouldn't surprise people if the state of New Jersey is mostly a Democratic state. Although I will remind everybody that our governors and even our elected officials aren't always Democratic. We go back and forth. Republican governor for 8 years, Democratic governor for 8 years. In my lifetime, the voting, I think since I could vote, there's been 4 Republican governors and 6 Democratic governors. So it's not like this is always a Democratic state. Definitely leans Democratic, but there's a good part of where I live, at least, is all Republican. It's like one of the reddest parts in the state. But anyway, Tesla tweeted a week or so ago that, hey, the state's making us remove 64 superchargers on the New Jersey Turnpike. The New Jersey Turnpike is one of the main thoroughfares north and south on New Jersey. We also have the Garden State Parkway, but the Turnpike is one of the main thoroughfares. You guys might recognize it because I'm always driving on it doing the range tests. So it's about 112 miles long, something like that. There's a bunch of rest areas. So Tesla charging tweets on X. State of New Jersey is making us remove our 64 superchargers. We've tried to work with them. We've done everything we can. We offered to upgrade them to new Magic Docks and all this stuff. But hey, it seems like, no, they're making us, we have to turn them off on June, which is now. I think they're off now too. I think they've been shut off. So, and on the surface, that looks like, holy cow, like some Democratic, legislator is angry at Elon Musk and says, well, we don't want this guy in the state. And that's what a lot of people assumed and tweeted and all the stuff. So, but then when you start digging into it and learn a little bit more about it, and it's been very hard. I've emailed tons of people that I know in the state. Nobody even wants to respond to me about this. No one wants to touch it. No one wants to be on record to talk about it. But I've pieced it together from some of the people that I've talked to, because some people have responded and given me little bits and pieces here. So 3 years ago, the state's travel plaza management went out to bid. Those are the travel plazas on the New Jersey Turnpike, the Garden State Parkway. We have 21 of them in total. Tesla has chargers, I think, at 3 or 4 of them at this point, something like that. And that's where their 64 stalls are. Maybe it's a couple more. I'm not 100% sure exactly how many. I've used them to going up and down the Turnpike. So 3 years ago, 2022, state puts out a bid for management of the travel plazas in the state, for the whole state. The state just wants one company to come in, manage the whole plaza, everything, food, beverage, gasoline, electric, site maintenance, all that stuff, and then give the state a percentage of the profits. That's typically how this works, 10%, 8% or whatever, and the state gets their money, another entity runs it. Apple Green is an Irish company, Ireland-based. They have a bunch of travel plazas that they manage in Ireland, in the UK. And what I didn't realize is they're the largest management company of travel plazas in the US. They manage 200 or 300 of them, something like that. But they didn't have any EV charging at any of those plazas until a year or 2 ago, something like that. They just started installing EV charging here in the US. Over in Europe, they've had it for a while, and hundreds of their sites have EV charging services. But here in the US, they just started installing their chargers in New York and I think Connecticut a year or so ago. I've used their chargers when I drive to Vermont. They're right on the New York Thruway. I've used their chargers. Okay, so they win the bid to manage all the things in New Jersey. This is back in 2022. We don't know if Tesla was told at that time, hey, you've got 3 years to decommission your chargers, because Apple Green, this new company, is going to install their own charging equipment. They're going to manage it. They're going to set the fees. They're going to do it. We've never been able to get hold of the actual contract. I've seen the minutes of the meeting where it was formalized and Apple Green was accepted, but we don't see the contract. So Tesla was made aware of this 3 years ago. Look, at some point, we're going to tell you you have to decommission your chargers. So Tesla then started installing superchargers right next to the turnpikes, their locations, but off the turnpike. So you'd have to get off the Turnpike, and like within a mile of their existing superchargers, they installed new superchargers. So that's where we're at now. We don't know exactly why Apple Green decided not to tell Tesla, you know what, you could stay here, but we need 10 or 12% of your revenue because we have to pay the state, it's part of our contract. Or if Apple Green just said, you know what, why should we let somebody else in our plaza? We're managing this plaza. We're paying to manage pick up the garbage, sweep the lots, all this stuff. Like I used to own commercial real estate where my restaurant was. I wouldn't rent to another restaurant in that same plaza. I wouldn't rent to anybody that would compete with my revenue. So I know EV owners don't want to hear that, don't care about that, because we just want the best charging experience we can get. But a business owner who's managing a plaza doesn't necessarily want to bring a competitor in, but they were there. So now Tesla says that they offered to upgrade all of their sites to Magic Dock, because a lot of these chargers that are in these service plazas won't service other vehicles. They're the older Tesla chargers. I think they're V3, but they're the older V3s, and Tesla hasn't turned them on. Some of them, I believe other EVs can use them, but from what I understand, many of them serve only Teslas. Now, in the contract with Apple Green, from what I understand, this is what I'm being told, that the charging equipment on sites that New Jersey told Apple Green had to be accessible for every EV. There could be no chargers on the sites that can only charge certain electric vehicles. Every charger had to service every electric vehicle. Now, even if Tesla provides new V3 Magic Docks, let's say, for instance, there's a lot of EVs that, with the 800-volt battery systems, charge very slow on them. And some of them, the newer ones, we heard about Mercedes, and we still don't have that really confirmed 100%, might not even charge on a 400-volt system. So there could be something in this that Apple Green is basically saying that would void our agreement if we allow any 400-volt chargers on our site. They have to all be 800-volt. Now, I suppose Tesla could come back and say, we'll rip everything out and install our new V4 chargers with the new cabinets, and they'll be 1,000-volt. I suppose they could do that. We don't know if they've offered to do that. And we don't know if Apple Green would even be amenable to allowing another company to come in. So that's where we are right now. I know people hate it, and everyone's going to say it sucks, and it does suck, because Apple Green usually installs like 4 or 6 chargers on their sites, whereas although many of them are going to be the new Apple-tronic units that have 2 ports on each one. So, but Tesla, we all know 10, 12 chargers, minimum on these highway locations. So will these sites have, will the charging experience be worse than it was before? Probably, yeah. But that's where we are. Yeah, Brandon's present, the V4s don't exist. But they can't be, Brandon, can they be that far from having them ready to operate? They've been coming. It's hard for me to imagine that they're still a year away from being able to install them, at some locations. And you probably know more than I do about that, but there has to be at some point soon. Like if Tesla were to tell them, we'll have our V4 cabinets 1,000-volt systems ready by the end of this year. If Apple Green was okay with having Tesla come on the site, I'm sure they would say, okay, that's fine, because Apple Green isn't going to have their chargers all installed by the end of the year to begin with. So, well, that's where we are now. It looks like right now that Tesla's out, unless they get some people in the state. And I talked about this. I did an Out of Spec podcast interview with Dave and Jordan. In order for this to get reversed, which I guess it's possible to get it reversed if you get enough people in the room that can make decisions, you would need some people in the in New Jersey with clout, some legislators that have political clout, that have connections to stand up and say, this is wrong. The EV drivers in New Jersey are going to suffer from this. This is not what we want. This isn't in the best interest of New Jersey drivers. But doing that, they're effectively helping Tesla. And we know that Elon Musk, and I know Elon Musk isn't Tesla, but to many people he is. He's not the easiest person to help these days in many circles. So basically, some politician, some state senator or something has to say, I'm backing Tesla. We need to get these chargers turned back on. We'll work with Tesla to install their latest chargers that can charge any electric vehicle. Let's figure out a plan to so that they can keep their chargers there and let Apple Green install theirs and have some sort of revenue sharing program. Everybody that I talk to in the state that has connections with the right people that are EV advocates that are in state legislation don't want to touch this, because they know more than 50% of their constituency doesn't like Elon Musk today here in the state. So now you're taking on a battle where you're underwater. Why do that? Why jump into a political thing? We all know the politicians aren't there to serve us and help us have a better charging experience. They're there to get reelected and to stay in power. I mean, let's face it, we all know that. So why take on a battle that more than half the people in your district or whatever don't like the company or the CEO of the company that you're trying to help?
Yeah.
Why do that? It's a losing battle. I know it sucks because, we're the ones that lose, the EV drivers, but that's where we're at right now.
Yeah, we have Apple Green over here. They got 600 sites, I think, internationally, and maybe 20 or 25 over here. And we've just seen them in the last few years start to roll out their own hardware. Can't for the life of me, their own charging network. I can't for the life of me think of what hardware they use over here. I think it's fine. I've used it. It's not as cheap as Tesla. It was fast and reliable. What's interesting over here is, as far as I know, they are co-locating with others. So there's one that I use on the way up to London from the south coast called Fleet Services. And Fleet Services northbound, not that I've dropped in there in a while, used to have the old, what used to be called the old Ecotricity owned ones, Electric Highway. They had all the big stickers on, co-funded by Renault ZE and Nissan for the Leaf. So they've been in the ground 15 years or something. So 50 kilowatt chargers might have been upgraded, but then GridServe bought them. GridServe have the big canopies and the big kind of fuel station ones, if you're not aware of who they are. But they also bought that ailing national network called Electric Highway, which is a great name, kept the name, and then put all new hardware in the ground using, I think, normally ABB hardware. So it worked really well. Then further down the car park, there is the new Apple Green chargers. I think 4 of them. And then further down, well, as you first come into the service area, just a slew of Tesla Superchargers, far more than all the others. So our experience of Apple Green is that they do co-locate. I have seen reports of them pushing out competitors, either when they say, right, we're not renewing your contract, or we're putting our own charging in. There is one that I went to, I was driving north and I forget where it was, but there was a lot of them. I say lot, that could be 12 or 14, which for a non-Tesla station, as Tom says, 12 or 14 chargers is quite a big deal. Yeah. So Apple Green's new to us as well. Not new to, they own Welcome Break over here, which is the kind of the logo on the service area. MSAs, as they're called, motorway service areas. So, yeah, we do have some Apple Green stuff.
And Martin, to your point about co-locating, that it all depends on how the contract's written, the initial contract. The state of New Jersey could have certainly, back in 2022, told all the bidders, we already have this lease deal with Tesla, so figure on they'll be allowed to remain on the sites, and they'll give you 10% of their revenue or something
Right.
like that. They could have done that, but it appears as though the way the contract was written was this is an exclusive contract. The management company that comes in gets to manage everything. I mean, they even get to select what gas company, if there's Shell is in there now and they want to use BP, they can tell Shell pack up. It depending on what the lease terms with Shell was. Evidently, Tesla's lease is up now. They on those sites, and that's why they were notified to go. And just before we move on to something else, I just want to address a couple of comments really quickly. I think I saw one from Philly Phil and one.
Phil.
Well, one. I think Philly Phil said, don't forget, you guys voted for this. What did we vote for, Philly Phil? This was a public contract that anybody could bid on. Tesla wouldn't bid on it because they don't manage travel plazas. Tesla just wants that little bit of the travel plaza EV charging. Right. So and this was it went out to bid, and Apple Green won the bid. The state has to award contracts to companies to manage the travel plazas. The state isn't in the business of managing a travel plaza. It would probably do a terrible job at it. So you want a company that knows how to manage these sites, manage the sites, and then just give the state a nice check once a month or every 2 weeks or whatever it is. That's what it is. This isn't anything, as far as I can see so far, trying to be fair, this isn't anything against Tesla. If this was Electrify America that had the sites, they would be told, get out. We're here now. So I don't know what, do we know that if there was any backroom dealings? And that was another comment that I said before. Somebody posted, Tom, it seems, right here, EV Life. Tom, you're more generous to Apple Green here than in your tweet. And yeah, I am, because I've learned more about what happened, EV Life. The tweet was a reaction when I first saw Tesla post, listen, the state's making us shut down our superchargers, rip them out, take them out of the travel plazas. Like many people, my initial reaction was, damn, this smells rotten. Right. Is this an anti-Elon thing? Are they is the state did somebody in power say, you know what, I can't stand this guy anymore? Let's show him, kick him out. But then once I made a slew of emails, tons of phone calls. I've talked to a lot of people about this. The New Jersey Turnpike Authority put this out to bid, and Apple Green won it. They control these travel plazas now. So, it's up to Tesla to make a deal with them, one that is palatable, that Apple Green says, okay, yeah, now it's worth our while to have other chargers here. And maybe Apple Green just won't even hear anything. Maybe they just said, there's no need to have you. Don't worry, we'll put the chargers in. If we see they're always being used, we'll add some more, or maybe they won't. But guys, they run the travel plazas now. They get to make the call. That's business.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay. I hope that the numbers are good in terms of the amount of plugs, and we hope the pricing is competitive. I've seen some comments in the live stream today from people saying, it may have been Brandon actually, Brandon saying they lowered their pricing, which, it's great. It's great. You guys still pay a lot less than we pay for electricity, and we still pay an extra 20% tax VAT on top of public charging, which you don't pay at home, which is frustrating. So, and we pay a lot, maybe a $1 per kilowatt hour. In your terms, that is a huge amount.
That's a lot of money.
Motorway service stations. Yeah, 70, 80p. I'm at 75 pence is on the high end, I think. But there we go. In a way, it pushes people to charge as little as possible.
And really quick, so Apple Green right now already has 3 Turnpike rest stops with chargers installed, and they're currently charging 39 cents per kilowatt hour, which is
not bad,
in line with what Tesla charges. Yeah. When I go up to Vermont, I pay 59 cents per kilowatt hour from Apple Green chargers on the New York Thruway. But so I don't know if their price is low in New Jersey now, so people are just like calm and not upset that Tesla's being removed, and then they raise the prices later, or if it's related to what they're paying for the electric. They pay more for the electric in upstate New York, so they're charging more, and here in New Jersey they're paying less, so they're charging less. We don't know. And Matt P just posted dropped to 35 cents. So I haven't seen that, Matt. But could Apple Green be doing that just as like a gesture to so everybody stops complaining? Because we know that they've seen everybody talking about this now and everything. So could they be just lowering it temporarily so everybody kind of calms down and says, well, Apple Green's not that bad. They have NACS charge connectors. They have CCS. Anybody can charge there. They're 350 kilowatt units. Soon they're going to be installing 400 kilowatt units, or they may even have some 400 kilowatt units going already. Brandon, who's in the comment stream here, works for Alpatronic. I know some of the units are going to be Alpatronic units. So, I have no problem. Hey, if they installed 10 Alpatronic HYC 400s at every rest stop area, I'd shut up and be happy, but the whole problem is, like, even the ones in upstate New York that I go to, that they typically only have 4 units, and those only have single plugs. So only 4 EVs can charge at a time. So that would be disastrous if they followed that type of a plan for New Jersey, where you're ripping out 12 superchargers and adding 4 plugs, 2 CCS and 2 NACS. That would be a disaster. So we'll see.
Is it at the beginning of this? You might have mentioned this in the very beginning. I'm sorry if I missed it because I was trying to get my head around what it all meant. What connectors are they going to put on the Apple? Did Apple Green specify whether they're going to do dual plugs on each unit or just CCS?
They haven't talked. They haven't spoke. No, they'll be both. I mean, that would be part of the contract that I mentioned earlier, that they have to serve all vehicles.
Yeah.
So they'll for sure have NACS and CCS.
Yeah, I think there are 2 sites in the US, Florida and Connecticut. I think, Dom, you wrote a story this week about a trial where they're using Alpatronic hardware, I think, with 4 cables on. So the two parking spaces. Is that right? 2 parking spaces, 1 piece of hardware between them, some power sharing, but then CCS J3400 one side and the same again the other. But that's, I think, on 2 test sites. Have I got that right?
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember. I remember that story too, and I'm just trying to remember the hook of the story was. Man, I'm not even sure what the hook of the story.
So, again, I'm not a massive fan of power sharing with 1 physical piece of hardware as the adoption curve moves forward. If I'm thinking pragmatically, what I think idealistically, that's better. Is I think in the next stage of the adoption curve, as more people get EVs, I think it is an interesting signal to have a parking space, often painted a different color, and then have a piece of physical street furniture there which has your cable on, or even your 2 cables, NACS or CCS. I think sharing, sometimes people think, oh, there's a car plugged into it already, I can't. But if it's got 4 cables on it, then most people should understand, oh, like that side's charging, but I can still charge, unless the signage is exceptionally good. And again, I've come up to chargers that have plenty of plugs on, and they haven't had the firmware updated or something, like an old unit, and when one side's charging, the other side couldn't, and you're like, this is frustrating. I think all the new stuff in the ground, pretty much, if it's capable of sharing, it does. Yeah, I can't find what sites that was. I'd like to remind myself of that, because that was an interesting story, rolling out at 2 sites.
One thing I can't say that if you haven't already, you should bookmark the website evchargingstations.com, because they broke the story. I think they were the first to have it up, and I'm not sure who the owner of that website is exactly. Maybe it's Tom, maybe it's not. I don't know.
Yeah, I got to give props to Mark Kane, my writer. He saw the Tesla's tweet, and he like immediately wrote an article. So we're the first ones to actually get it out in print to say, look what's going on here. So Mark's always on top of things, and thanks for giving me a little plug there. If you guys don't know yet, it's a website that I started that's really dedicated to electric vehicle charging. It's not just you won't get general EV news there. It's just about charging, AC, DC. If it's charging related, we cover it there, and we try to do short articles, 400 words, 500 words. Just get to the point, not a lot of fluff, and just let people know what's going on out there in the world of charging, as well as posting my charger reviews there.
Oh yeah, it's a pretty good site. Did you cover it this weekend? I see. Speaking of Alpatronic and charging, etc., Ionity in Europe is putting in some 1,000 megawatt chargers. Basically, well, they call them megawatt chargers, but I think they only can dish out like 600 kilowatts. And maybe Brandon can correct me if I'm wrong here, but yeah, and I think BYD is also sending some of its megawatt chargers to Europe. So Europe's getting like big charging power coming soon. I'm not sure. I don't think anything Apple Green or even Tesla is putting in right now quite hits that mark. Did you found the article you're looking for there, Martin?
Yeah, that was the Electrify America one. Two sites. Inside
right.
EVs reporting 2 sites, and so yeah, when you look at the way that this is configured, you can have those dual guns, I suppose, as it is both sides. So they are 4 cables, 1 piece of hardware. Yeah, very interesting. Very interesting. That seems cool. And then the megawatt chargers are on Ionity in Europe. But as you say, maybe not true megawatt. We haven't got any cars that can take the stuff anyway over here.
Well, they're coming though, right? The two BYDs are supposed to be able to probably use like 600 kilowatts. The Tang L and the other one, I forget what it is.
Tan L and Tang L.
Yeah, those are like the worst BYD names. I think I like their like seagulls and dolphins stuff better. Like for naming, their nomenclature.
There we go. Brandon's in the comment. HYC 1000s.
Right, 600 amps CCS next, but
1500 MCS.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So it can do with 1500 amps. So if I need to do the what's the voltage would be 1,000 volts, right, Brandon?
Yeah.
So that would be 1500 kilowatts.
There we go. Yeah. For
MCS, that's a lot of power.
It'll do for now. I wouldn't mind buying a vehicle that can charge that quick. I've got no use for it. I don't know what I'm saying. What a stupid thing to say. I don't go anywhere these days. I work from home. But you know what? Maybe I'll change the car at some point. Had the Polestar 2 18 months now, so I'm getting itchy. And maybe the Polestar 4. Oh, I just like new toys. Polestar 4 has finally arrived in the United States. We've had it since last autumn. But it now arrives in the US. Let's talk about a car. We've talked about politics and charging. Let's get on to actual cars that you can go buy. Polestar 4 is not a replacement for the Polestar 2. It's more expensive than that. Finally, officially going on sale in the US this week. Starting price $56,400. And $56,400 is not much more. It's over $1,000 more than the price they initially put it on for sale for over a year ago now. And all the things that have happened in the last 12 months, I think that's not bad to keep the price. Of course, if you pre-ordered whatever, put your money down last year, you pay that price, not this new price. So pretty much what they said it would go on sale for. Launched in 2023, started production that year in China. We get the Chinese versions. Polestar 4 is now coming to the US. It will not be made in China. You won't be surprised. Made in South Korea by Renault Korea Motors at their Busan plant. Polestar 4 is we've talked about it before on the podcast. Kyle shared his impressions on the Outspec channel and also on here as well. A reminder of the specs, as it's been a minute. This is the one that has no rear window. So there's a Polestar 3 and the Polestar 4, and they arrived at almost the same time. Really helpfully, thanks Polestar. But the Polestar 4 is the big Volvo EX90 equivalent, bit more of a sporty version than that. But it's that similar vehicle. This, though, is the one with no rear window. It's had the rear window delete option applied. Actually, it's fine. It uses a camera that displays on a rear view screen. It's I think it's fine. Like it doesn't feel claustrophobic. You can, if you want to, open up the rear if you're loading goods in, and it's not like it's a complete bulkhead that is completely cut off. But day-to-day driving, no, the rear view mirror doesn't look through. That allows you to keep the roof line different and allows you to have all the space that you need, but also have lots of headroom for rear passengers, says Polestar. Rear-wheel drive or all-wheel drive, 400 kilowatts of power. That's 544 horsepower. It's the quickest Polestar so far, 62 miles an hour in 3.8 seconds. There's the 100 kilowatt hour battery, 300 EPA miles, 300 rated, 270 EPA rated with the all-wheel drive. The top spec one, long-range dual motor. The way Polestar do it is they have packs. Their option packs are Pilot Plus and Performance. Add them all on, and it's a $73,000 car. Deliveries begin in the fall. I really like this. I mentioned a couple of weeks ago, whenever it was, I parked next to a Polestar 4 recently. I was able to compare old and new, 2 to 4, and stand and stare at them for a while. And this is, I think, a really good-looking, beautiful vehicle. A little bit softer than the Polestar 2 in some of its creases and lines, but otherwise looks still very modern. It's got some Chinese influence, you think, but otherwise, great-looking vehicle. Sporty-looking car as well. Yeah, I like this a lot. It's now on sale in the US. Dom, what do you make of the Polestar 4? Would you go for this or something else?
I was thinking this was a cheap one, kind of, and it is cheaper than the Polestar 3, which
This is the cheaper one.
But just like clicking on things, like showing the different interiors, I've somehow cranked the price up to $80,500.
Easily
which,
done.
Yeah, I mean, but basically, it does start at 56.4, which is a good bit cheaper than the Polestar 3. I mean, I haven't driven this thing, but I like it. I mean, Polestar, the exterior styling looks like a great car. We saw some shots of the interior here earlier, and like this, everything looks like, man, you're definitely getting. I think you'll feel like it's like a luxury vehicle. I think the feel of it it's all kind of up there. It does have like the big center screen, so it's not a super traditional interior, I guess. But the seats, actually, I don't know if I can get to the seats. It's got a flat bottom wheel. Yeah, those seats, like those side bolsterings, and I've got the ventilated massage and front headrest speakers. That's for the Napa upgrade. That's those seats that you're looking at. But you can save a bunch of money if you just go with the Bio Microtech in charcoal. Yeah, that brings the price down quite a bit. Look at that. So 64,300 to what's it going to jump? 73,500 for this better seating package. That's man. That's wild. Yeah, but yeah, I like this car. I mean, I if I had the budget, I think definitely something I would look at. I think so. This. We just think this cross shops with not the Macan. Macan's more of a Polestar 3, but I mean, for some people, this got like a nice luxury feel to it, though. Maybe a step below the Porsche, but I don't think it's very far down below that. I don't know. What do you think, Tom?
Well, I just had a Macan, and
Right.
I don't know if it's really much of a step below that. This is a premium vehicle. I think interior materials and everything. That Greg just mentioned, Lyric competitor. So
All right.
Yeah.
I would actually give this a little bit of a step up above the Lyric as far as like
Yeah.
premium, particularly on the interior. And I like the Lyric, but the Polestars, I haven't driven the 4. I've driven the 3. Really get that premium feel, fit and finish and everything. I like them. I love the way this vehicle looks. I just don't like the price. I know I'd get rid of I'd get used to the rear window delete. I don't think that would be a problem, but I just wish this was like, we could say this about a million vehicles, but it's true. I just wish this was like 20 grand less. If you could load this thing up and get it for 65, 70, then it's
Right.
it's a real competitive, compelling vehicle. But loading it up and pushing it up into the 80s, I don't know. Is that where we are today? Like with the world of
Probably.
automotive, it just
In the
seems like,
premium brands, yeah.
yeah,
Like
I know that seems like just a bridge too far, particularly for a brand that doesn't have a lot of brand recognition. That,
mhm.
when people spend 80,000, part of that money, I think, for a lot of people is brand recognition and that cachet that comes with owning a brand that people immediately associate with luxury and premium. I don't think a lot of people look at Polestar yet and so, oh wow, he's got a Polestar. Like, that must have cost him a lot. You know what I mean?
Mm.
And that's part of it. I know we don't. A lot of people, a part of the money is you pay for the emblem, and well, Polestar isn't. I don't think they're in a position where they get any extra credit for being a Polestar yet, and it's a shame
Right,
because they make great vehicles. I love
right.
Polestar.
It basically
Yeah.
it's a Volvo. It's like another flavor of Volvo, basically, right?
Yeah, but most people don't know that. I
Yeah.
mean, we
Right.
know that, but a lot of, I would go as far as to say 80% of the US population doesn't even realize that there's any
Yeah.
connection. I think a lot of people just think, oh, it's this new Chinese EV company.
Right.
Yeah.
Lars makes a point here. Lars Petter says the Polestar 4 is way more roomier inside than the Macan, which I
Mhm.
think did the Macan feel kind of cramped
It's
inside
a
to you?
small car. Macan is quite small.
Yeah, it felt like my Equinox. It kind of felt Equinox-ish,
Okay.
although it had much better headroom than my Equinox. I mean, it
Okay.
was like miles to the sun. And the interesting thing about that, and I don't even know how Porsche did it, but the seating position is actually lower than the combustion Macan. And
Oh, really?
that's with the battery pack in there. Usually the EVs, the seating position is a little bit higher because they got to squeeze that battery pack in that. Somehow
Right.
Porsche made it so that the seat is actually lower than it is in the combustion Macan.
Brennan put up Genesis GV60, Optic V, Alfa Romeo Stelvio competitor.
Yeah.
Oh, Alfa Romeo. That's an interesting shout.
And Lars in the comments, owned one for 8 months. Polestar 4 is a real GT family cruiser. I owned one for 8 months. Yeah, that's quite big, actually. Like I say, it's not a Polestar 2 competitor. It is a bigger vehicle than that. I say particularly in the rear space as well, because of that rear window delete that I don't have any problem with. It seems to be people, I don't know, want to get upset about stuff. I will channel my inner Kyle Connor here and step into his shoes, or whether that should be get into his hoodie, but that just sounds wrong. But you know what I mean. If I channel Kyle, he would say, get one in 2 years' time when it's half price. And he'd be absolutely right, because
I mean, that's your MO, right? Modus
yeah,
operandi
well,
for buying cars. And you said you're looking for a car. So is this something, a
I
direction you go in?
always buy used cars. I've ever had a new one. I
Yeah.
had a new Renault Zoe once at the end of run. So when the Zoe ZE40s were done at the France factory where they're made, and they had to retool it over summer for the ZE50, and the final batch came out, I got one of those at a stinking good price. Ridiculous. I think it was cost. I don't know. But that was a new car. But what was that? Like 15 or 16 grand? I don't know. It wasn't. It was a lot of money, because that's not an insignificant amount to write a check for. But I always buy used cars because that's where the value is for me. Although, again, in the EV world, the other argument is technology's improving so quickly that you can not expose yourself to some of that risk and stuff like that by leasing, or a car that you're going to get back in 2-3 years' time. But yeah, I think in a couple of years, these cars, exactly to Tom's point, the depreciation hits it because no one knows what it is.
Yeah.
Like,
Right. True. Right.
I'm not looking for a car right now, but I always browsing the used. And one of these days I'll just pull a trigger and Meredith shoot me when I come home. But I was looking about 2 weeks ago, and I saw a Hummer EV for 61,000.
wow.
And I was looking at it, and I was like, and it wasn't far from where I am. And I said, what if I drive over there with a check for $55,000 and just say, here, take it
There
or
you go.
leave it. Like,
Yep.
take it, I own it, leave it, rip it up, and I'll leave. And I'm like, 55,000. It's possible they might just do that depending what they did on a trade-in or whatever.
Yeah.
But then it was gone like in a day.
Wow.
But that's where Hummers are getting into now, into the 60s. So like
Right.
that's just I mean, it's such a fun vehicle to drive. I've driven them a bunch, and I know it's ridiculously big and in your face and everything. But every time I get in one, I really smile when I'm driving it. So it's like you want
Yeah.
something that makes you smile, you know. But any event, that's EVs. The look at the used price, the value. In just a couple of years, you wait, be able to get a Polestar 4 probably in fully optioned for like 45 grand. I mean,
Yeah, you will.
grab it.
You will.
Grab
You
it.
will.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. I was doing the same as you, Tom, but on Mercedes EQEs and EQSs. And yeah, so it's 40. So I bought this Polestar for 25. Again, a couple of years old. Probably worth 18 to 19 now for me. So it means putting some more money into the pot. But look at that, an EQE. I couldn't afford EQS, but EQEs are down in, I think, like the 30s now. That's just ridiculous depreciation for a 3-year-old vehicle, 3-year-old vehicle. And they didn't spec them badly. Now, I know the old cliche about the Germans and their options list, and you don't get a radio unless you pay extra. But honestly, I don't think, because they didn't really do that in the EV world, of just stick everything on the options list. I think even your bargain basement Merc EQE or EQS, it's a very, very nice car.
It is.
Cheap. I mean, man.
What's
no,
the
like you
postal
say,
code?
Mrs.
Hey,
would
Martin.
kill me. Yeah.
Hey, what's the postal code in your neck of the woods?
I'm BH14, Bournemouth 14.
14.
What are you doing? You're finding me a car. Why?
I'm trying to find you a car, but I'm on the cargurus.co.uk website and ask for a postcode, but it's not accepting my BH14.
Oh, okay. It probably needs a full postcode. Do BH41AA, which will be the town centre, probably. I'm not giving you my full postcode.
BH14AA.
That's my address.
Okay, that worked.
That's Bournemouth. I'd probably be in the middle of Bournemouth or something.
Okay.
Cool.
So just pulled up one. So I'm looking for a Polestar 4 for you, and I just pulled up a 44,000 pounds.
Almost a year old now, I think.
Yeah.
They
So they've
came out
been
last
selling
summer.
so the Polestar 4 it's just going on sale in the US, but it's been selling across different markets all across last year, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, this one's 8,000 miles, basically 44,000 pounds. Does that sound like a good deal for you?
Sounds like a very good deal. That Polestar 4 is beautiful. So
yeah,
nice.
I mean, so 44. Do you offhand, what do they go for new there in pounds?
50, maybe 58 or 60. I don't know.
Okay,
But
so that's pretty decent.
Yeah, but you say low 40s, that or an EQE that's maybe a year older. I like the Polestar a lot, but you can get a lot of car for not much money now. But then if you're spending low 40s, that's where Taycons are at. Okay, higher mileage, a little bit older. I saw a turbo. I saw a Turbo S Taycon for no money. Sorry, we've turned into a used car show all of a sudden. This is Wheeler Dealers now.
Yeah.
But I was like, man, those Taycons are crazy.
Yeah. And let me point out a comment. Yaz wrote, if EVs are better, then why do they still have such poor resale value? I suppose there's a lot of reasons for that, yes, but I think one of the reasons is I think people that don't study EVs, say as closely as we do, are really concerned about battery life, more so than what they need to be. And they just think, oh yeah, the EV batteries are only good for like 5, 6, 7 years. So why would I buy a 2-year-old EV? Now in 3 years, I got to replace the battery. A lot of people have that opinion. I mean, I've talked to friends who have asked me for advice on buying I'm thinking about getting an EV, I'm looking at Tesla Model Y or another vehicle. And I'm like, hey, the play is to buy one that's 2 years old, because you can get a crazy deal. And most of the time the answer is no, I don't want to use EV. I'm like, well, why don't you? I don't want to deal with the problems. Well, what problems? Like like I don't know. What if they didn't take care of the battery? That's a legitimate thing, but you can test
tell.
that before you buy it. So I think there's this general opinion for people that really don't study this industry, like probably a lot of you guys do and we do, that these batteries are like the old Prius hybrid batteries. You got to replace them after 120,000 miles, and it costs as much as the car costs. So I think that's really the biggest reason why we see such incredible depreciation. And also, the depreciation is because of the incentives. In many states, like here in New Jersey, for a while, between the state rebate and the federal rebate, I was getting $12,000 off an EV. So let's say it was a $50,000 EV. I was really paying, $38,000 for it. So now in 2 years, it sells for $20,000, and people are like, oh my God, this is a $50,000 car selling for $20,000 in 2 years. Well, no, really, it's a $38,000 car selling for $20,000 in 2 years. So, I think that's part of it too. That most cars, right after 3 years, they're worth 50% of what their value is. Most combustion vehicles. I mean, there's certain outliers. Certain vehicles hold the resale value insanely. Like I used to buy Toyota Tacomas every 3 or 4 years. I'd practically sell them for what I paid for them 3 years later. So, but that's the outlier. That's not the normal vehicle. So I think that's really why you see the resale value so low. Is it's misinformation, and also taking into consideration that many of these vehicles got healthy incentives off MSRP. So the starting point wasn't where the MSRP is at.
Yeah.
The used car market's just a crazy place, man. There's so many great deals out there. Mercedes, all the Mercedes stuff, EQS SUVs. Oh my God, this is just.
And what world do we want to live in? This one or the post-lockdown world, where people were buying a Model 3, driving it for a year, and selling it for more than they bought it for because there was a year-long wait to get a new Tesla. So I don't know, which world do you want to live in? That one or this one where you can go get a bargain EV that is new to you? Might not be a new car, but it's still a fantastic vehicle. I like having the choice, and it brings prices down. I cannot wait till we get some of these cheaper cars rolling through to the second and third hand market. So over here, we've got the little Leap Motor T03, Renault 5, Fiat Grande Panda. These are all 20,000 vehicles, 22,000, pounds. But give me 3 years on one of those. And there's loads more small EVs coming with LFP packs to Europe. Again, we've got mandates over here in terms of volume. And so it's much easier it's less profitable, but to sell a smaller, cheaper car with an LFP pack in it and hit your targets. And then you can sell a big, Range Rover, although, it's a JLR experience example, which is bad. But you can sell a big diesel SUV for a big margin. So we're getting loads of small EVs over here in Europe. Hey, give me 2-3 years on that. Come back in 2027 or 8. And we're going to have some properly cheap small city cars that people will get as their first driver and stuff like that. Then we're there. It's all good. What haven't we talked about this week? Another video that came out from Tom. I don't know. I think we have talked about that yet. And that is the what was it called? Cyber Phoenix.
Cyber Phoenix.
The coolest Cybertruck pop-up camper you can buy. Now, people might be divided on whether or not they think Cybertruck is cool, and there's no doubt it's selling in far fewer numbers than was originally forecast. But Tom, you made a video about a camper top that definitely seems cool. Tell us all about it.
Yeah. So a friend of mine messaged me and said, look, we haven't chatted in a while. He's from New Jersey. He moved out to Colorado a year ago. And he said, I don't know if you've been following me online. I have a YouTube channel, which I have been, called Cybertruck 1. But he's really into camping. He's always owned campers. Him and the family is always, goes camping. Mm-hmm. He got a Cybertruck and he wanted to outfit it with a camper. So he contacted a company called Phoenix Pop-Ups, and they make custom pop-ups for all types of trucks. And he got them to co-engineer. He kind of helped them with it, like telling them what he would want, and co-engineered it. And that's his pop-up. You see it if you're watching on YouTube now. So he gave me a tour. He was in New Jersey visiting family. So he said, I'd love to show you the truck. And I said, well, come on over and we'll shoot a quick video. Give us a walkthrough, show people what it's like. He actually will also help if somebody has a Cybertruck and wants one. He said, contact me. I'll talk to him about some of the things you want in this specifically, because as he mentioned, Phoenix pop-ups hadn't dealt with electric vehicles before. So I think this was their first pop-up on an electric vehicle. So he was able to, guide people into what you really should look for as far as outfitting it for an electric vehicle as compared to a combustion vehicle. And it was pretty cool. It's got, he's been taking it camping all winter up in Colorado, up in the mountains, and it's fully, contained. It's got everything in there. It's got heat, air, a small bathroom, like a compost bathroom, so you can go inside. When it pops up, you could stand up in there. I think it's like 6'3", and you could stand and walk around. A little bit later in the video, you'll see we're inside, and he's giving me a view inside. It's got a nice big bed, 2 chairs, a table, 2 burners, a sink, refrigerator. It's pretty cool.
This is
It's not
awesome.
bad for
And
like a
and
back
it's a
of a pickup
one-off.
truck.
So yeah.
Was it cost a lot of money, I guess?
I think it was 60 grand. So that's a lot, but look at some of the
Is it though?
pop-up campers. Uh,
Yeah.
that's what you pay. What was that Cyberlander that company? I don't know if they ever built that thing. If you remember, we covered it on Inside EVs. It was
Yeah.
over 100,000, right? It was more sophisticated than this, but I know
Was
it
it?
was
Oh,
super expensive.
This looks like more practical though. I mean, that had like a lot of folding, or there's like an origami kind of pop-up camper
Yeah.
thing, but
And,
this
and
looks like more real.
yeah, and someone just said, how much range does he get? So he said it actually doesn't affect the range that much. He couldn't give me an exact amount, but it sounded like about a 20%, 20 to 25% range hit, which is substantial. But if you notice, it's designed. If you go back to the beginning, where when the pop-up isn't popped up, it's designed to be aerodynamic. Like the top of the pop-up, you see how that angle continues the line of the. He's showing that right now. Actually, perfect timing. How it was designed so that it wouldn't, really affect the aero that much. And he swears, he says, honestly, he goes, I barely notice a difference in range. So particularly when you're going at speed, maybe when you're stop and go traffic, it might have a bigger effect because now you're, that inertia to move that extra 1,200 or 1,500 pounds, in stop and go traffic might affect you more than cruising on the highway. And people are commenting about the range. So he does have a propane tank for the gas range, but he said, if you want, you don't have to have any propane. It could have been an electric range, like a induction range.
Yeah,
Could have
induction
been an
hob.
option.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And he has the 4 solar panels on the roof, and they provide enough to power everything in the camper so that he's not, taking energy from the main battery. You see, it's plugged into the Cybertruck's
Oh.
bed, where it has
Yeah.
the 240 volt outlet. And that's an additional outlet. That's not really what's powering anything in there. That's like an additional outlet that he has there, so that he could run extra power directly from the Cybertruck if he needs to.
This is
So does this have it has its own solar panels? Does it have its own battery, or it just feeds into the Cybertruck battery?
No, it has its own battery. It's not big though.
Okay. Okay.
So it doesn't charge. It currently doesn't charge the Cybertruck from the solar panels. He said
It
in the
wouldn't- it
future he
wouldn't be.
could add panels. Like you
Yeah.
see right there, it's generating very little watts because the battery is at 100% in the lower corner, and this gives you how much water you have. You can see on the lower left-hand corner, the battery's at 100%. The small battery that it has there,
ah.
and the solar panels are generating just 51 watts. That's because the battery's fully charged. If it was lower, you'd be getting like 400 watts or something like that.
Interesting. Wow. Well,
Yeah.
I'm surprised that there is a small battery and it doesn't just use the Cybertruck, but also not surprised at the same time that it's all separate and the truck can do truck stuff and then you can do it's really well made as well
Yeah.
for a one-off, for a custom project. And
Yeah.
it's expensive, I know, but it looks really nice.
It really
So,
did, and I honestly, it almost looked better in it than in the video. I was really impressed. It was really cool.
yeah.
You know, it was really cool. I mean, you could really, you know, go camping in this thing, and you know, and he did over the winter when it was like 50-mile-an-hour winds and everything, and he said it held fine. You know, the windows have Velcro, like
Mm.
solid plastic, so nothing is going through if it's really cold out. And he said they were nice and toasty warm in there, even when it was down like 0 degrees. But when he had it camping up in Colorado, he actually has a couple videos on his YouTube channel of him taking it, camping in the Colorado winters.
Wow. Cool. All right. Hey, we've got time for one more thing. And let's talk about one of the OGs of the EV world. For many people, it's where it all started. For many people, the Nissan Leaf is the very definition of the beginning of the electric vehicle world. Lots of people still have Leafs, and I still like the Nissan Leaf because you can get them used, again, at a great price. You get them new at a great price if you find some stock. And it is still a really nice place to be inside a Nissan Leaf, but there is a new one. The new Nissan Leaf is coming. They call it the 3rd gen Nissan Leaf. If you ask me, Nissan have been a little quiet up until now about it. I wouldn't mind them being a bit more punchy, a little bit more proud of their new baby. Tell us more about it. Get us excited, because I'm excited about a new Nissan Leaf. Now, it is obviously a complete redesign, engineering-wise, from anything on the road right now called Leaf. It sits on the Aria platform from Renault, Nissan, Mitsubishi, but we had at least finally something coming out of Nissan. What did we learn? Not a huge amount. I think they're going to aim for over 350 miles of range on it. I think WLTP 372 EPA that, and it'll be still over 300. 0.25 drag coefficient on it, so pretty slippery. I still would like a little more from Nissan on this. I think they've got every right. I know Nissan's having real problems at the minute. Talk about selling their headquarters, and you're doing a lease or a sell and lease back deal, and they just need money. And Nissan's having so many issues right now. But all that aside, tell us more about this, because for so many people, it's where the journey started, going EV. The Nissan Leaf won't be the new Nissan Leaf. What you think in your head is the Nissan Leaf. It'll you can see in the background here, it's slightly higher, more of a crossover shape. But hey, Nissan Leaf came out in 2010. In 15 years, that's exactly what the car market is these days. People want something that rides a little bit higher, more of a crossover shape and style. And yeah, we didn't learn massive amounts from this first video in a new video series, but I hope this is the start of a new kind of a sort of just a more information coming out of Nissan, because I feel like I don't know, they've been a little bit quiet on this, and it's coming really soon. The factory's done in the Northeast. It's going to be made here in the UK. And yeah, like this is all ready to go. Tell us more about it, Nissan, apart from it's slippery, which is,
Right.
it's like telling.
They said it's going to go 300 to 500 kilometers. For travelers, be able to travel 300 to 500 kilometers. That's what, 180 to 300 miles, basically. So It sounds like there's going to be 2 battery options, which I'm not sure if they've.
A couple of battery. I think probably even you would think an all-wheel drive option as well, based on the Aria platform.
Right.
And so it's smaller than an Aria, but you think they've got more leeway to do different things with the engineering of this vehicle as well. So yeah, come on, Nissan, tell us more about the Leaf.
Smidge is asking, did they figure out how to cool the batteries yet? And
Yes.
Martin mentioned, it's on the same platform that the Aria sits on. That's about the CMF something. But
yes. CMF EV. So a Japanese company, AESC, is the battery company. They opened up a big facility
Chinese
in France this week. What's that?
They're Chinese now.
Oh, okay.
China,
so the Chinese.
They were originally they were started by, I think, Nissan. Originally,
they divested. They tried to divest multiple times, I believe, and they finally got their battery business. You know what? We didn't learn a huge amount, apart from the plural of Leaf is Leaf. I learned from this video. So that chap we were just watching, who is the head of everything, job title, said we've sold something like 700,000 now, and he goes, we've sold 700,000 Leaf now. And I thought, Leafs.
It's not leaves.
And he said leaf. And I think he did it twice, I think. So clearly, inside Nissan, the plural of leaf is leaf. Because, of course, I forget what leaf stands for. But somebody in the comment can tell us what ALEAF
low
stands
emission adventure family. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think it's adventure. I think it was.
for.
I think it was like
adventure.
leading environmentally friendly.
Asterix.
Yeah,
No.
something. It was like leading environmentally friendly. I don't even know, family mover or something like that.
Yeah.
I forget. Jeez.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wish they were to come out with this instead of the Aria. I hate to say that, but I just wish they would have stayed down market a little bit with their second generation electric vehicle. And who knows if we're going to see this? You know, Nissan's got a lot of financial problems. They have to sort that out. They have to merge with somebody or get taken over by somebody, and
Yep.
you know, the hard, tough decisions will be made. We realize that their EVs are not the most profitable segment of their their product portfolio. So it could be that their electric vehicle program gets either shut down or completely or really curtailed until the company gets on better footing. We don't know. It's a shame. The Aria is just, it's like a lost EV. It's a nice car too. It drives really well.
saw
The
one
UI is
yesterday.
horrible, but it drives really well. And there were leading environmentally friendly, affordable family car. There you go. I was pretty close. I was pretty close.
I didn't want to Google it. I didn't want to. That was the easy option. I thought somebody will know.
They did.
Do you have Chat GPT on call there, Martin?
I do, but I didn't want to. That's no fun.
Right.
I live with AI these days, like constantly. I love it. Yeah, by the look of it, I didn't realize this, that they were forecasting a loss of $500 million equivalent, and then posted a 5.26 billion annual net loss in their figures in March 2025, which is 750 billion yen. I didn't know it was that bad. Yeah,
it's bad. Things are bad, but this is supposed to maybe come out the end of this year or beginning early next year, depending on, I guess, which market you're in. So I think it's got to hit the dealers before. I mean, people are saying Nissan's going to go kaput, but man, it's hard to see such an established, big name like that just like go away all of a sudden.
Yeah,
so
that'd be a real hit for Japan as well. A very proud, manufacturing
national
culture.
pride's going on there, right?
It's very, very that'd be a big deal in Japanese culture because they're very proud of their engineering and manufacturing. And hey, where's Carlos going when you need him?
Lebanon.
Not in jail anymore.
Not in jail, but he's in Lebanon hanging out, so because no extradition treaties, right?
Yeah. So he didn't do too bad under him. Maybe others would argue differently, but
I don't know if he's the right man for the position now at this stage.
Maybe
but
not anymore.
I mean, if nothing else, it would be very entertaining, right?
I'd let him take a few more cheeky flights on that private jet or whatever he did wrong, and have him back and not be in the situation they're in. But yeah, good luck, Nissan, and everyone that works there. They've made some great vehicles over the years. Very popular here. Of course, they're made in the UK. Vehicles like the Nissan Juke, which is a very small car, is very popular, and that'll go electric as well. Hopefully it will. Fingers crossed. Finally, we'll touch on this with a very, very heavy dose of caution. Dodge Charger EVs are reported by their owners as having unintended acceleration. I saw this on Motor One. I also saw this on a very reputable site like an Edmunds or something.
Well, it happened to Edmunds' car.
So
Edmunds has one of these cars.
So it happened to Edmund's car, and the long and the short of it is the headline Dodge Charger EV owners are reporting unintended acceleration. So I think the driver, correct me if I'm wrong, the Edmunds journalist had one of those situations we've all had in an EV where the software reboots the screen. It happens very occasionally to people, and the system rebooted. But then the car started with no input controls on the pedals to creep up by about 1 mile an hour. It wasn't like mashing the accelerator. Oh, we're going to crash. I'm going to kill my I think it was there with his son.
It looked like ADAS system was on, you know, like at 50 miles an hour, and he was driving at 40, the way it was going to 41. Kind of like how the car would accelerate if you wanted it to accelerate slowly, that way, you know?
Yeah. And so, as Dodge pointed out, that's not an unintended acceleration. It's called drive-by brake, and they do it in their combustion cars as well. So that if there is, for whatever reason, a loss of connection between the accelerator and the brains, and the computing central control units, that the vehicle will increase its speed slowly to get you out of a dangerous situation, because you can always modulate the speed with the brake until you can get to a safe place. So clearly it shouldn't have happened, and clearly that's an issue, and it needs to be fixed, and it's not good. And I'm glad that the journalists are okay. To have sudden case of unintended acceleration does sound like it tried to drive you into a brick wall at 100 miles an hour, which is very much not the case from my understanding of this. But hey, we all like a good headline, don't we? And these days, lots of the media survive on clicks, and you got to get those clicks to make that ad money, right? So we don't, obviously, on this podcast, but many people do. So I guess it's all about the headline, isn't it, these days? And it's a shame.
It's not to sustain like this. It's not to saying this isn't a fault, though. This is like a feature. This is kind of how they've programmed the pedal.
It's meant to do it, yeah. So it's in a case where it loses communication, it will increase speed gradually. You can always slow it down with the brake, but it will then get you out of a problem situation. It won't just stop in the middle of the highway. It will gradually get faster. So they do it with combustion cars as well. Seems like a good idea. Seems like not a reason to write a negative article about electric vehicles.
It's a good idea if you are informed that that's how the vehicle.
You're right. Yeah, we've never heard of this before. It just kind of happened.
That's the thing. Like if an automaker is going to add some sort of feature that is dramatically different than the way any other vehicle operates, they need to really make sure that the customer knows that before they get the vehicle, that this has a drive. I mean, shoot, if I owned a dealership, I'd make the customer sign a form that says, I understand this has drive-by brake feature. If there's some sort of a problem with the vehicle software, with anything, the vehicle will slowly accelerate. I understand that. And I also understand that I can stop or slow down the vehicle at any time with the brake, and put your name on that piece of paper, because this is such a different type of a reaction. Like I've never heard, no other vehicles purposely accelerate on their own, you know, without the driver asking it to go faster.
Right.
You know, there's no other car that would do that under any circumstance. So this is such a different feature that I think that needs to be communicated at the dealership, so that you fully understand. Look, if you notice the vehicle is slowly accelerating on its own, that's okay. But what you guys have to understand is you can always slow it down or stop it with the brake. And evidently that's not conveyed. All these people posting these things don't know that's how the car operates.
And when the fault happens, there's no messaging about that either, right? It's just like what happens. It does the thing, the EV freakout thing, where all the different lights and buttons messages come up, and you don't know what's going on, right? So that's not a great experience.
Yeah, you should have a big drive-by brake feature has been turned on. You know, the vehicle will slowly accelerate on its own. Use the brake to slow or stop the vehicle. Real big on that screen. You know, seems like a real easy thing to add.
Yeah, I think so. I think there's been so many of these stories over the years with electric vehicles, which are, you know, faster, instant acceleration as well with EVs. And I think nearly in all those cases, either when the car makers have published the data or it's gone to court or something, then no, you put your foot on the accelerator or you slipped or whatever. It was your fault. So when I didn't actually read this, I read the coverage of this story. I didn't read the original story, because when I saw the headline, I was like, I just seen so many of this over the years, and it's always user error, which in this case, I suppose it was user error again. But as Tom says, operating as intended, but no one was told. So, yeah, strange one. But yeah, the EV world has seen a lot of these. And you know what? I say the EV world, it's always Tesla, isn't it? It's like, my Tesla accelerated without me realizing. Pretty sure
There was
it
a lot of
you.
that back in the day. I haven't heard so
Pretty
much.
sure it was your foot.
There was a lot of Teslas going
Yeah.
through walls and windows and things at one point. It seemed like
Like-
every other week or so, someone was hitting the wrong pedal and hitting a building.
Yeah, and it launches so quickly, so
Yeah.
instantaneously that that some people, I'm sure a lot of people realized they did it and said the car did it. It was unintended, but I would imagine a bunch of people were confused. They thought they hit the brake when they hit the accelerator, and with how quickly it launches, before you even know what's going on, you're into a wall or something. The
Yeah.
biggest case of this was obviously the Prius back in, I guess it was the 90s, when they had, and it was like, I think it was pretty much proven that the car never really had unintended acceleration. Wasn't it like the
Was it a carpet or something?
the way that the carpet, the floor mat was designed, it would get loose and wedge into the base of the accelerator pedal, not allowing it to come back.
Right.
If people understood that was what happening, they could have reached down, grabbed it, and pulled up. I mean, you probably crashed at that point, but nobody knew that was what was happening. So, there was so many cases. I mean, there was live video, I think one, right, of a guy in California, like he called 911 and they had a helicopter in the area and he was like speeding through the highway and he's like, I can't stop it. I can't stop it. I don't understand why the brake wouldn't have worked at that point, but anyway,
Right.
crazy stuff. I don't know if I don't think any unintended acceleration has been proven with individual vehicles. I think it has been, like, a certain vehicle had a certain instance where it broke, but there hasn't been a case of like widespread about a certain model where dozens of people reported it, where they investigated it and found out, wow, yeah, it was the car, it wasn't the person.
Good place to finish, I
Yeah.
reckon. We've done our podcast for today. Thank you so much for watching and listening and all that kind of stuff. We couldn't do it without you. You guys in the audience joining in as well live on a Friday. Good comments again this week. We like the chat.
Hey, Tom, before we go, can we see what your shirt says? Remember, kids, electricity will kill you. Oh, jeez, Tom. I mean, true, but he's must have got like a lightning bolt in his hand, like he's going to shiv the kid.
Yeah, that's Ready Kilowatt. Don't you remember Ready Kilowatt? That character?
No.
It's from like the 50s or something, or 40s.
Okay.
Like,
We didn't have that in Canada.
Yeah, just Google Ready Kilowatt, and like he's like a famous like electricity guy. And anyway, yeah, this is like to remind people, don't wire your own home charging equipment.
Yes. Yes.
All
So
right.
there we go. That's another one in the books. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. As ever, if you do catch us on one of the platforms, we always do an audio version as well in your usual podcast apps. So you just search Batteries Included Podcast and you'll find us. And that way we're always in your favorite podcast app as well. If you want to have us in your ears or join us for the video version of the show, it is always great to have you however you tune in. Any questions or comments? We always say YouTube's the best place, even if you're not a fan of YouTube or don't watch us. It just keeps all the comments in one place. Any questions? We'd love to hear from you. And we can always catch up. In the meantime, if you like the show, please give us a thumbs up on YouTube. It tells other people who maybe also watch EV videos but don't watch us yet that they might like to subscribe to Batteries Included Podcast. So hit the thumbs up. We've had a great time this week, and we will catch you again very soon. Urban says a great podcast, and Jeff says thanks, guys, and thank you for being there. We will, see you in 7 days' time. Oh, hey, before I go, Dom, say ciao. Come on.